Welcome to the Hybrid Fitness Report, episode 39, Mr. Ryan Douglas. Great to have you with us, man.
Yeah,
Friend
great
of the
to
show.
be here. You guys are doing a great job. I'm glad to see a little bit more elevation. You guys teaming up with HYROX is great, but crazy 39 episodes. You guys have done a great job.
I know. It seems so weird that like this all came about because one day my dad was just like, we like talking about this stuff. There's no one, I know it's a niche market, but there is no one in the world, father and son, doing this. So it's like, I feel like there's still a gap in the market that we're still filling. And you have a few more podcasts coming out now, but there's not a single dynamic. There's a father and son, a couple that race together, but this is like the only one as far as I've seen. I don't even know if there are any, like there must be some podcasts out there, but definitely in terms of hybrid racing, the only sort of family or at least father and son duo that I've seen.
Yeah, it's a cool dynamic. To your point, though, it is a pretty wide open space. Was having a side conversation yesterday just with some of the proven coaches about taking up more of that space, sharing more of what's working. And I think you've done a great job of just like putting one foot in front of the other and committing to a process of continuing to share, regardless of what that might be. Obviously, it takes some prep time, but you guys have obviously found something that works, and there's only so many doing it. And then you add the race results to it and some of the helium behind your name and the work you're doing with Chris. It's great. So good on you.
No, I appreciate it. So for those people who, I feel like if anyone is listening to this or watching this, and I feel like they'll know who you are, but just in case, who are you? What's your background? And what have you done so far in your, I guess, HYROX career?
Yeah. I'm Ryan Douglas, or Dougie, as you'll see on screen. I was explaining to the guys earlier, that's how I'm referred to by about 95% of people in my life, and I would definitely consider you guys friends at this point, so that makes good sense. But been in HYROX now for, I guess, coming up on 2 years in October. And come from a baseball background, so a little bit less traditional background, especially for the Europeans. Nobody over there is playing baseball. I know a few guys on this side of the pond. Played at a university here in Canada. Had some opportunities to go play.
Position.
Oh, I pitched.
Nice, same. Okay, cool, carry on.
Yeah. I actually forgot about that, that you played baseball too. But played baseball
like
until
years,
21.
Yeah.
Where was that? Was that in the States or was that in Cayman?
No, I've never lived in the States. I've been there like probably 12 to 15 times, but it was all in Cayman from when I think my dad started coaching when I was like 5, and then I played until I moved back to the UK when I was 15. Went there and did 2 indoor practices at the only baseball tryouts I could find, and it was awful. I mean, it was the complete opposite experience to coming over to the UK for football and rugby, where it was a whole new standard. This was a whole new standard of awful. So I just kind of left baseball there and then pursued, continued on with rugby and football. But yeah, so sorry, carry on. You did baseball?
Yeah, I played baseball in university here in Canada, and for what we had, like, we called it elite or like travel baseball through high school. A lot of the guys I played with ended up playing Division I, Division II. My brother ended up playing in the States, but I decided to stay local. And then as COVID rolled in through 2020 and 2021, we were far less, progressive, I guess, in terms of getting back to baseball. So as a result, I started with marathon running and distance running, and that parlayed with the strength training I'd done for years, kind of set a good foundation, I thought, to do well in HYROX, and then kind of had a pretty good leg up once that came to Canada here in 2024.
When did you, because obviously if you had left us I have a baseball background, there's no way that makes any sense as to how you've gotten to where you are in HYROX. So when did you start your sort of running, and how seriously did you take it, and for how long?
So I started running, and the way that I started running in 2021, early 2021, was all out 5Ks, probably 2 or 3 times a week, as you do when you get started. A buddy of mine said, hey, can't make the 5K this Thursday. I'm doing a marathon for shits and giggles at the park on Sunday. so I won't be able to make it. I got to rest up. I said, well, why don't you give me till Thursday of next week and I'll join you. We'll run a marathon together. So it went from like running 5Ks to we'll run a 10K on Thursday, then we'll run a half on Sunday, and then the following Thursday we'll go run a full marathon. So we ended up doing that. I got the bug a little bit, just stacking mileage, and I've always been fascinated by progressive programming, whether it be on the strength side or just taking all the resources on YouTube, for example, and trying to apply that to like longer term progression. So from there, ended up signing up for my first race, I guess, in 2022, which was a 50K trail run. Did a longer 100K early 2023, some marathons through 23 and 24. Ran the Boston Marathon in 2025, and that was kind of like the end of my road running focus, because at the end of that came a focus on HYROX as well. So I'd say I've been running now and progressively with like a pretty good eye on training progression for like 4 or 5 years.
So sort of double-headed question there. Number one, what are your PRs for those distances you've lifted? 5, 10, half, marathon. And then the other half of the question is, from that, it didn't seem like you've prepped much for these distances. So did you have actually like a good build up and a good sort of taper and everything? Or was it just, I'm going to do these?
At the start, so that first marathon I did with a buddy at the park, like that was not prepared at all. I think we just snuck under the 5-hour mark. And at that point, we didn't really have a goal time. But since then, like very deliberate preps. And I think that comes back to just like the way that a lot of us are wired in the space to be, I don't know if we're all type A, but like pretty measured in how we're going about preparing for something. So early 2023, my first marathon,
maybe more autistic than type
ran a
A.
255. Yeah. Hey, my girlfriend says I'm somewhere on the spectrum.
Of course you are.
TBD.
My whole family says I'm somewhere on the spectrum.
Neither of you can be anywhere near as good as
Yeah.
you are without being somewhere on the spectrum.
Okay. Hey, we'll run with it.
Okay.
Well, most people aren't at your level, right? I mean, all humility aside, most people are not at your level. Now, some of that is because we're not as gifted as either of you. Some of it is because we find other things too distracting. Whereas if you're, let's just say, a tiny, weeny little bit on the spectrum, you have a great propensity to go, I want this one thing, and that is the thing that I want. And you go, and everything else, almost everything else, falls by the wayside, right? That's part of being close to the best at anything. And you two guys seem to me to be living that, and partly proof of it.
Verbatim,
Cheers
Paul
to that.
Reynolds says, in order to be an elite athlete, you must be autistic, and online coaches don't matter.
Not quite what I said, but
Sorry, carry on. Yeah, you're going through your distance runnings and your PRs?
Yeah. The preps were always like very focused after that first one for fun, but the progression on the marathon side was like 255 in 2023, 244 in 2024, and then 240 at Boston in the spring of 25. And then otherwise, I've never done a 10K for time, and even a half. I haven't done a timed half in 3 or 4 years. My PB there was like 122. I figure I'm probably in like 114 half marathon shape now. And then 5K PB is 16:20, but I'd like to think I could sneak just under 16 minutes at this point. How about you? Are you doing any of that stuff through the summer?
No, like one of the things that fascinates me most about, some athletes in our space is not just their capacity for volume, because I've seen in my training how you can build up to that and how that is manageable. For me, it's more impressive the stuff that you said about how you decided to do a 5K all the way up to a marathon within 1 week. I think that for me is so impressive because of the toll that it takes on your body, and being a heavier athlete, like just the sound of doing that much mileage within a week, being that new to running, especially when I had a history of shin splints as well. Yeah, so for me, my pure running has always been by far my weakest element to HYROX. Not that pure running is technically an element within HYROX, because it's all somewhat fatigued or compromised, however you want to put it. But I haven't tested any of my stuff since I started training for HYROX, to be honest. Before I started training for HYROX, like 2 years ago, my 5K was I think it was 17 high. I think I got it down on a treadmill after throwing up at a park run to like 16 high. So I don't really know where that is. My 10K before I started training for HYROX was 30.
I don't know what's happening there, but just to be clear on that one, Ryan, that Jude literally drove, what was it, Jude, about an hour and a half to go and do a park run? Yeah. And then threw up just before it was about to start, so ditched it, drove home, felt better by the time he was home, so did the 5K on a treadmill instead.
Yeah, controversially, I prefer treadmill running anyway. And so that was the 5K. And then the 10K before I started training again was like 38 low. So I'd like to think I'm around that 35 mark. Like I'm not super quick with the running. And then half marathon again before I started training was 123. So I should be around that 117, 18 mark. And I have never done and probably will never do a marathon.
That's one thing I might always have over him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that have you run like marathons in your day?
I've done 16 halves, which he said first time he ran a half, he beat my PB by about 20 minutes. But I did six full marathons. Last one was Tokyo in 2019. So my PB on the marathon is 3:59.16, which was also my first one. And then I gave up marathons when my chiropractor said to me that he thought I should stick to halves because my body didn't agree with marathon running. And I kind of looked at him a little bit upset and slightly offended. And he said, "Oh, don't be offended. I've just been treating your mate." And I told he was running half marathons. And I told him to take up poker. So you're doing fine.
It's a little hit and miss who you go see for chiropractic care, physio, general like physical rehab work, because I feel like half of them don't understand the idea of like extreme tasks where they may just tell you like you're going to die at 60 if you do something like marathon running. So I'm glad they kept you on your feet, to your point.
Yeah, and that was sort of highlighted where I don't know if I've mentioned this in the podcast before, where I used to work at a gym, and the amount of clients that we took on that, you know, were back squatting 60 to 80 kilos, that were running, you know, doing these hybrid fitness races that, you know, 6 to 8 months earlier, the doctor said you'll never run again, let alone compete in a hybrid race, let alone squat 80 kilos. So it's like, yes, the medical professionals know more than we do, and they should be trusted, but it's just sometimes it's really frustrating seeing people with PhDs, with all that knowledge, with such a huge influence over society, telling people you won't run again, to then 8 months later they're doing all of that. So it's just, I don't know, it's quite hard as a coach, being like, I can't tell someone what to do over a doctor, but at the same point, look at all this evidence to suggest that they're wrong. I wanted to sort of cover with you, especially because we were both there, and this is what I wanted to speak with you most about, is Worlds. So tell us basically, what was your whole build up? What was your mentality? What was your nutrition? What was your training? All of that sort of lead up into Worlds, and then we'll sort of get on to how you did and how we found the race and everything like that.
Sure. So I guess to walk back a little bit into the spring, my sights were set from Phoenix. So the first major that Jack and I raced, elite doubles. Focus then shifted to DC. I didn't have a very good showing in DC. So from that point forward, all focus kind of shifted to Ottawa in May and then World Champs in June. The goal was to do a half marathon.
How far out was Ottawa from Worlds? Sorry. How far
Ottawa was mid-May. So I think 4 or 5 weeks before Worlds.
Yep.
And my idea was like, that's a good opportunity for points. So at that point, I thought I may even be better off peaking for Ottawa or trying to be primed for Ottawa, because I didn't see a world where I was going to get any meaningful points at Worlds. So tried to run in Ottawa. I went out hot with Fred Dubé, who just kind of slow plays the first half of the race. He burned me into the ground by the row work. And Rich had run 2 days prior, so I ended up getting third. It was okay, but my biggest takeaway was that I was just too heavy to feel quick. So that whole final month, and the biggest adjustment I made from mid-May to World Champs was tracking body weight, getting a lot more rigid about what I was eating and just eliminating a lot of like the extras is kind of how I explain it without tracking all my macros. And then just got really healthy and consistent again. I found racing through the winter and the spring and being quite reactive and adding races to the calendar. HRV was in the shit for a lot of those winter months, was just like frequently sick and never really got into a rhythm with training. Whereas those final 4 weeks before World Champs and even right before Ottawa, but it didn't reflect in the Ottawa result, a really clean progression in like run workouts, HYROX specific workouts, having everything progress the way that I wanted. And then going into Worlds, I knew I was in a really good spot fitness wise, but with a field that deep, I mean, I would have been fine top 5 in the age group and then top 10 overall. But yeah, it's crazy to see like where we're at, right? Same with you.
Yeah. So how did
can I just back up to your Ryan, to your going into Worlds? You mentioned you didn't see a world in which you were going to make serious points at Worlds. I mean, I'm getting a sense of why not, because you hadn't had what you thought the season that you thought you were going to have overall. But bearing in mind the shape you were in, obviously in your age group, Jack was a massive threat. I mean, who else would you have said, look, these are 5 guys who can really hurt me in my age group?
I had thought Yannick Schopla was going to be a problem in that race. Julian Kreitzer, an Austrian guy that people don't really seem to know, had run like a 53, I think, in Warsaw, which I know we've all kind of seen over time that course was funky for whatever reason. Quinton Garrell is another guy that was supposed to race that weekend. Paul Windle. There were a handful of guys that I think had put up results and beat notable guys in Europe or run 54s and 53s at one point or another. And I figured the pace that it was going to go out at, and one of them was going to thread the needle, right, similar to kind of how those elite guys race.
Yeah.
I thought somebody was going to thread the needle, and at that point I was just going to get dropped because I wasn't prepared to try and run that race from the front. My goal was just like, run your best race. You're in a good spot fitness-wise. I'd rather PB by 30 seconds and take 5th in the age group than try and run a 2-minute PB and win the thing and then be upset that you kind of went for all of it, So that was kind of my thought going in.
Just to say that was something that we spoke about, which is that the World Champs, more than a normal race, people will risk everything in order to try and make the podium, and that they're, without accusing certain people in the Elite 15 of having done precisely that, to my mind, there was at least one of the 3 favourites who may possibly have done that in the Elite 15, certainly at the sleds, and that 2 or 3 of the guys seem to have lost it by the row. Whereas other guys were more disciplined. I mean, the guy was the most disciplined. I mean, Dylan was the amount of restraint he showed at the back. But there were several guys who clearly were able to do exactly what you're saying, Ryan, and go, my best race isn't trying to respond to anything. It's literally running my race, which is hard to do. And we saw that in multiple age groups, I think. So sorry, carry on.
Yeah, you can't. I think your quickest race is as fast as you can run it. And so you cannot physically run faster than you're capable of. And so going out at someone else's pace will never help. So that's what I was kind of wondering in terms of your race, Ryan, was how, I was going to say the warm-up area and all the way through the race. Were you in first and last and then last and first? Or how did everything sort of play out?
It's kind of cool on HYROSOL I'm on pretty frequently, but they have a new graph now at the bottom that shows like your placement throughout the race. So you don't have to dig through all the different splits and see where you were. From the sled push exit or sled pull exit, I had taken first overall among everyone, which was kind of surprising to me because my whole thought early on was just be controlled, be measured. That first run was short, so I knew that heart rate wasn't going to elevate the same way that it would on a long first run. That's something that I've struggled with in the past. So the push, like I put a lot of work into the push before World Champs, and I found that worked. But leaving the push, getting to the pull, and then leaving the pull, I was out in the lead among everybody. So it was a really good day overall. But my thought the whole way through was just like keep the blinders on. To your point, your best result today is going to be a result of you not trying to counter anyone else's move. Just be measured, have a steady effort throughout the entire race, and trust that that's going to produce a result that you feel is like 99.9% of your potential with the current fitness.
I feel like you've kind of been allergic to actually saying how you did at Worlds. So how did you do at Worlds? And then also, obviously, I know you competed more than once. So how did the other races go, and what were your results and everything?
Yeah, sure. Well, I won the World Championship for all age groups, obviously outside of the elite, so it's kind of a funny title, but I will certainly take it. Yeah, it was a great race. I feel like the fitness finally came through after some up and down results. 2 days later, raced mixed doubles and PB'd by almost 4 minutes, so that was another huge win. We weren't in our best shape when we qualified, but I don't think we thought that time was in our back pocket either. But that was just a ton of fun. Like, being in peak fitness and running a mixed doubles race is so much fun. I think pro doubles on the men's side, or vice versa on the women's side, is terrible if you're running with somebody that's of your fitness, just because it's like so painful the whole way through. Whereas a mixed race, it's like you should be running a little bit under your threshold to recover, and then you just absolutely send it on the stations, which is a lot of fun. So we ended up running a 53:01 mixed doubles, and we got 8th overall, and we won the 16 to 24 age group.
Awesome. And what was your time for the solos?
55:23.
And that was a PR, correct?
Yeah, by just under a minute.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sort of with that, how has the start of, I guess, off season or just simply the new season looked for you? And what are your plans leading up to Hong Kong, which is next year's World Championships?
Right now I'm 35th or 36th on the elite leaderboard. So my focus through early September and then into October is improving on 2 results right now that are 95 points. So still some room there to improve on points. I'm going to go to Acapulco, Mexico, September 5th, while everyone's duking it out in DC here in the States. And then Toronto the first weekend of October. That'll be a competitive one with Fred, potentially Cole, some other American guys coming as well. But they're both before the Hamburg cut date. So if all goes well and I take a first and a second, even 2 seconds, if I win both races, then I'll be in good standing to probably be top 20 and be in pretty good shape for like a roll down potentially, but at least get into that challenger division. I guess from a training perspective, I've just kind of stepped back in intensity through July and then the first week of August to just do a lot of like lower intensity aerobic work, kind of boring stuff. But I think it's a good way to keep moving the needle and then just expand the way I explain it, expand like surface area in a week for training time. And then now that we're within 5 weeks of race day in Mexico, very similar approach to how I attacked the prep for Worlds, just because this race is, I'm kind of seeing it as like a higher priority race than Worlds itself, because it's so evident now that the opportunity is there to go take 105 points. So I'm tapping into every tool that I can right now to try and get sharp for September 5th, and then just carry that into October when some of the bigger global races heat up.
I was listening to Lauren Weeks and Anthony Persini's podcast, and Lauren Weeks was saying she's also going to Acapulco. And I'm just wondering how many people on that side of America are also going to have that same idea, because it's a shorter flight to some people who live in America to Acapulco than it is to DC. So I'm wondering, I mean, yes, I do definitely think it'll be less stacked in DC, but, you know, are there any names that you think might fly out and challenge you there, or are you just not aware of anyone so far?
I had heard that Lauren was going, and I know that Pelayo is going. Otherwise, I'm not sure, because Pelayo is in Chicago. But otherwise,
he loves those Mexico South America races. Pelayo does.
He does. So we'll see. No, I feel like that'll be a good battle there.
Yeah, I think you got him though. I mean, it's weird. I don't know. I think his comeback story though is probably one of, if not the most impressive that I've seen. Meg Jacoby's still going through one, Bo Wills is still going through one, but how he dropped out of last year and then came to get sort of third in the Elite 15 doubles this year, I just think is crazy. But I do also think that he's quite a specific doubles athlete. Yes, his solos compared to even the sub elites is very good, but I think he's just even more specialized in that doubles aspect. And I do think that, I don't know, me going against him, I wouldn't back myself most of the time, but I would back myself, I'd say 3 or 4 times out of 10 to take him in a solos race. So I'm definitely thinking that, if I had to put some money down, it would be on you against him.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Either way, right? He's kind of one of those guys right now he's in the top 15 as it stands with 5 wins, but I think he's kind of in that ballpark of like 15 to 25 globally. So that's the kind of guy that I need to go out and beat if I want to race at that level anyway, and not just show up and take the apparel and head home with a 15th place finish. So
yeah, exactly. It's like when I raced Harry Thompson at like DECA the other week. It's like, yes, he's an Elite 15 athlete, and yes, that makes it slightly more okay, I guess, for lack of better phrasing, that I lost to him, but he's the exact type of athlete that I need to be beating. So it's not like making an excuse of, oh, he's an Elite 15 athlete. It's like, no, he's the exact type of person that I want to surpass, I want to beat. And so it's no longer for, us with our goals of, it's okay, they're Elite 15. We want to be that. And so there is no excuse. It's okay, he's him. It's like, you're a coach, are you full-time?
Not yet. Hopefully at some point.
Not yet. Hopefully soon a full-time athlete. So it's like those like you said, the exact type of athletes that we're trying to beat at every opportunity that we can. So, but it was tough because I was talking to my mom earlier about, or it was my grandma actually, that me and my mom were talking about the races that I want to get to sort of get some points and stuff, and they're like, well, don't you want to go against the best people in the world? And I'm like, yes, I want to be racing people that are better than me all the time. But the problem is that that's what HYROX has kind of stopped people wanting to do now, which is the issue. Is like the competitiveness in me. I want to train with people that are better than me. I want to race with people that are better than me, because that's what's going to make you better. But with this point system, with the Elite 15 in terms of exposure, social media, monetization, brand, that's where everything is. And so everything has to be dialed towards that. And so you kind of sort of have to, play the game. And that is going to be, how can I find the least competitive but most accessible race that I can, find that balance and go to it, which is frustrating in a way.
Well, how do you deal with that? Because that's something I've realized lately too, is going into Worlds, there was a very freeing feeling without this expectation of a specific result on points or finish, right? It was, hey, just bring your best fitness and whatever happens, happens. I think as we start to stack these resumes with a win in a second, right, and you start to pave your path kind of to the next major, or whatever major it might be, you get very hyper fixated on, I need to win this race. Like that is literally the only result that is going to move the needle at this point. How are you managing that shift in, I want to go see where I'm at, to now I need to go win this race and beat anybody else in the field?
Yeah, for me, the transition from, I'm assuming what you're meaning is like, how do you switch from caring about your time and seeing objective progression to just beating everyone, right?
Yeah, like, do you find a sense of like, are you like, do you feel a tension that comes with that, or a sense of like stress before a race that you wouldn't have otherwise?
For me, I think being so competitive, it's been the most natural shift ever. Like, for me, I moved from caring about time to caring about beating other people very easily. And so, like, I noticed at Sydney where I PB'd and at Worlds, I didn't even look at the clock. Even when I knew I'd won, I knew where I'd placed at Worlds, or I knew where I'd placed at Sydney, like, I didn't even care. For me, in terms of what do I want to beat, the clock or a person, it's always been a person. And that's what I've sort of searched for my whole life, playing team sports, was now into HYROX and competing as a solo or an individual athlete, is I want to beat every single person on that start line. And it's all up to me. Being a solo race, it's all up to me. And I love that sort of competitiveness. And so lining up against other people and seeing and being, having tangible goals, being able to beat the person right next to me, is for me so much more of a motivator than just looking at my clock. Like, I don't look at my watch. I think the only time I look at my watch is after the lunges, and maybe if I'm unsure about which lap I'm on during like one of the runs, but I don't care about times at all. The only reason that I might care about a time is, you have some of the people like before Worlds that I knew I was better than, but there was a few who got better times than me over in courses like London or Warsaw, and it's just like, I know that's what brands are looking at, and so that's the only point in which I was like, that's a bit annoying, I wish I had a better time, was because brands look at it. What do brands give you? Brands give you opportunities. Brands are awesome. You can work with them, and that's what's going to help you go full time. And so that was the only reason that I cared about time. So yeah, for me, the transition was super, super swift into just caring about beating the person next to me, which, yeah, like we were talking about, it's hard going from that to seeking actively an empty race as opposed to a stacked one.
Mm-hmm.
And I can testify, looking back at Jude from about 15 years ago onward, that he was completely obsessed with beating me at absolutely everything for many years, until finally he wiped the floor with me at absolutely everything, and then he progressed on to trying to beat everyone else as well.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the sort of thing. It's like at that point where I was competitive against you, you were better than me at those things. Like when it was arm wrestling, you were stronger than me. When it was running, you were quicker than me. And then it's as soon as I started to be able to beat you there, I was like, right, okay, who is now stronger than me? Who's quicker than me? Let me go and try and beat them. And yeah. And that's why, like, I've got next year I'm coming over to America, and in the least cocky but most sort of looking admiration-wise way possible, I hope you're there. I hope Jack's there. I hope Fred's there. Cole, maybe, I don't know. Cole can kind of stay away for now. But I hope you guys are there, because that's the sort of competition that I want to be sort of racing and beating over in next year. And, next year, who knows, maybe I come 8th, maybe I win it, I don't know. But, having friends in the space that are better than you and are able to push you is exactly what I'm looking for. And hopefully by that point, I know where I am in terms of points, and so I'm not too worried. I'm going over there. I'm betting points will still be a factor, but I want that to be pure race experience and just pure practice of how can I manage my race, how fit am I compared to these people that I was, this much slower than last year, for example. So yeah, that would be super exciting.
I think another part to Ryan's question about balancing time with competitiveness with points is the fact that for about 6 months from roughly now onwards, a lot of people are in a big scramble to get their 3rd, 4th, and 5th races in, so they even have somewhere to measure themselves at all. So a lot of people are stacking races just to get on. Some people who maybe got a 94 or 95 pointer in November last year and didn't care about it at the time, going, crap, I thought that was fine. Turns out that's no use to me at all. That's not going to get me in the challenge division. They're going, I need those points right now. And that kind of thing, all of that desperately searching for places where fewer big names are, that's going to largely go away, I think, by springtime next year. So when Jude's over in the States doing a couple of races, hopefully Q1 next year, I think the whole sport will be a lot more in the place of, we're looking forward to racing each other, and the points will work itself out.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Dad, but I've definitely got Miami, and I might have Phoenix and one more.
Well, we're at the moment we're hoping that you can do Phoenix and Chicago and Miami. Obviously, those aren't released yet, but it depends partly on if you're in Challenger by then. You're going to have to make a cheeky little trip over to Bangkok in the middle of the American spring season. So,
yeah. But yeah, that would be awesome. Miami was awesome last year now, wasn't it? Yeah. So it's just, hoping to find, hopefully I know where I am points-wise, and I can just go over there looking for competition instead of, for the sake of points, unfortunately trying to avoid it.
Interesting. Does Chris play a role in helping you decide on where to race?
Yeah, so I'll always ask his input. So, like, for example, there were, what was it that I was doing? The Sydney trip that I did earlier this year, he heavily weighed on that. And I was like, what do you think about it? Why do you think this about it? And he even came over and, like, I stayed with him. So it's just sort of, what do you think in terms of my progression is most beneficial? And so he always has an input into what I do. Are you coached by anyone, or are you self-coached?
Self-coached right now.
Self-coached.
Yeah.
Are you looking for anyone, or are you sort of happy where you are?
I think going into Worlds, my hope was to put together a prep that I think like really put a bow on the spring and like all of the gains that had happened through last season. And my thought was if there's regression or it's clear that I'm not able to move the needle on the elements of fitness that I'm trying to with my training, like for example, if I put in a threshold specific run block and I'm not improving my threshold running, then I need to go look elsewhere. So I was starting to think about like, who am I going to reach out to? Could I work with Cole more directly through the Proven group? But after Worlds, that was one of the most gratifying things about the result at Worlds was just like, I love this puzzle of trying to figure out what makes a good training week, month, and season of the year. So I'm going to keep rolling with that for now and try and run that tap dry.
And I guess just to sort of round off everything, obviously, Dad, if you have any other questions, I'll sort of hand that over to you after this one. But if you could say your main goal for Hong Kong this year, what would it be?
I think the only reasonable goal after this past spring is to be competing in the Elite 15 field in Hong Kong. And it feels like a stretch goal, but I think at this point, like the expectation at every pro event is to battle for the win, like you said, and to race either in a challenger race or a few elite races and pull a rabbit out of a hat is kind of how it feels right now, to try and land on a podium at one of those races. But that is the hope. And otherwise, go try and win it again in Hong Kong. But I think being on the younger side of this sport, much like yourself, endurance is such a long-term game that I think you have to be patient, but at the same time, you also need to be kind of reckless and fearless with the goals that you're setting, right?
So Elite 15 qualification for the solos and Challenger, or Elite 15 qualifications for the doubles as well?
As of now, I don't have a doubles partner, and I'm not planning to race doubles at least until the new year. I may try and get an age group qualification and then see if we can find some spots to go get some points on the doubles side. But I think given the opportunity right now on the solo side, that's where my focus is. And then we'll see what happens with doubles, but not a focus right now. And you, what's the goal for the year, solos and doubles?
Solos is to make it into the Challenger by the last major of the season. I think people are going to be racing all over the place, so it's going to be quite hard. That sub-elite category is stacked, so definitely make it into there for the solos and as well for the doubles. So me and my partner Michael racing together this season. There have been a few last-minute changes, so it's going to be tough to get a lot of doubles racing in, but we're definitely going to qualify for age group worlds, so is the hope, and we definitely want to try and qualify for a challenger, and then hopefully at a stretch win one of those would be pretty cool, but we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be epic. I think you'll be in challenger before Lyon rolls around. Is that where that final one is?
Lyon's in May.
That'll be. I think it's only 3 weeks before Worlds.
Lyon's May.
Okay. Well, yeah. Right. Well, that would be the aim. Racing there would be pretty sweet. You'll
have it sorted. I don't want to run into you on a course anytime soon, or be in a battle at the rower. Your row splits are disgusting. Do you have a rowing background?
Well, hopefully.
What's up with that?
Yeah. Well, I have like 8 to 10 months of quite competitive rowing experience, but like it feels like more of a background than it is, because it was the first time that I'd say I competed in a sport nationally and like on a sub GB level. So it was 8 to 10 months, but it took off quicker than anything I've ever done. Like I've never been that good at rugby, football, baseball, running, and then within like 10 months I was better at rowing than I'd ever been in any of those sports. So I think that's why it kind of feels like a longer or had more of an impact on my life than 8 to 10 months really did have. But yeah.
The only thing I was going to ask about, Ryan, was whether you'd tried doing any things like ethics that were kind of between CrossFit and HYROX, because I don't think I've ever seen a HYROX athlete that I more thought, oh, I wonder if he's come straight from CrossFit than you. Except for that one time when I saw Roman Krenikov.
I haven't thought too seriously about it. Honestly, what threw me off is Cole went down to Miami and he won, and I'm not super familiar with the ATHEX format, but he won the endurance event or the running event, and then he won the Metcon, but took 15th or something in the max strength and got 5th on the event. So my thought was like, even if I win the two that I think I could win, being the running and then the Metcon, I don't see a world where I'm doing any better than that on the strength side.
I don't think you've seen yourself, Ryan. I think what the rest of us see is this insanely jacked guy, and somehow you haven't noticed that. No, just a thought.
This is actually an interesting theme or topic with you specifically, Dougie, is that in terms of physiques across the whole of HYROX, as I'm sure you're obviously aware to yourself, you know, when people think who has the best physique in HYROX, and I'm not being dramatic here, if people know who you are, it is always going to be Ryan Douglas. So is it genetics? Is it, you know, because you do a bunch of curls? How on earth do you look how you do?
I've always had this like stockier physique, and anytime that I'm eating a lot, I retain a lot of size, hence the move before Worlds to like really try and reduce the extra snacking to lean out. Because I found what happened was right before Ottawa, my focus shifted in training to higher volume, but it ended up being more like hypertrophy based. All this to say, I do tend to retain muscle mass quite easily, specifically in my legs. Like I've had bigger legs for a while from a lot of strength training, and that's something that just hasn't gone away. So, I mean, to your point, Paul, like I wish there was a lot of maximum strength still in the old frame there. Probably a little bit more. It looks like there's more there than there is, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm starting to get roids allegations on my posts, so I'm doing something right if that's the case, but I don't know. First Form makes some pretty good supplements, so maybe that's half the battle too.
Nicely done.
Great plug. They must love you. But yeah, I was just thinking, if any of you, like myself, want to feel really bad about yourself, go and check out Ryan's page, because he like the amount of muscle mass to body fat he has, that ratio is absurd. But I mean, Dad, if you have any more questions, I think, you know, that was, I just thank you, Dougie, for your time. And you know, if people want to follow you, do you want to shout out your Instagram, shout out anything like that?
My Instagram is just my name, Ryan Douglas 44. I try to share what I'm doing on there a little bit more, so check that out. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I feel like we could riff for a while. Hopefully we'll have some more races to talk about soon, and development in the sport, good or bad. Hopefully more good than bad, but yeah, you guys are killing it, so I appreciate it.
But yeah, I mean, again, Ryan, thanks for coming on, and sorry to leave you blushing at the end of the podcast, but yeah, it was great to have you.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Good to have you on, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. We'll catch up soon.
So just to close things off, great to have Ryan on for a good chat about how he's been getting on. Jude, just briefly, because obviously we've been away for a week and you've just only been back for a few days. What's happened or happening with your training?
So I was talking to Mads about this a little bit. I think for me, weirdly, the 4 days mentally might have been a great reset, and I'm hungrier than ever. I'm more motivated than ever. But it's sort of with my training volume leading into that 4 days or 3 days completely off training, it was so high, my volume was so high, my intensity was so high, everything was really elevated. And then coming all the way down, I came back thinking, oh, I'll feel so fresh, every session's going to feel amazing. But in reality, my active recovery days had, you know, the least I'd ever do in a day is 2 hours of low intensity exercise. And so I think completely cutting all of that off physiologically has actually had a bit of an adverse effect, which is why some of the Elite 15 athletes don't take days off. And although it's preached, you need to take a day off, your body needs to reset. For most people, I would say yes. Most people, general population, do need at least a day off a week in order to let your body recover. But when your body is so adapted to the training volume and the training stress that you're putting on it every day, your body recovers better with movement at a certain point in your physiology. And so mine, I think, had gotten to the point, and is at the point now, where my body will recover better doing 2 hours of low intensity work than it will doing nothing, because your muscles tighten, they seize up. I wasn't doing mobility, I wasn't doing stretching. And so my first session back, I did like a threshold workout, and I was like, I'm ready, I'm rested, and I sort of got a soreness in my lower back. So before it got any worse, I hopped off, did the rest of the volume on the assault bike, and it's fine. I've had this thing before, so I know exactly how to manage it, and it goes away after 2 days. And the only thing that aggravates it is extended periods of high intensity running. And so I was just able to manage that and sort of getting back into things. My training volume's where it was at. It's just the main thing is, if you were at that level of training volume and intensity where it's the highest it's ever been for yourself, and you do take that sort of cold turkey 3-4 full days off, ease back into intensity. Like, I know you think, oh, I'm so rested, I've had 4 days off, why do I need to? Trust me, it is always worth it. Your body has then maladapted, and it's sort of become not back to square one, but just a few steps back. And so for me, my volume, my intensity has left me this past week a lot more sore than it would normally. And so this week's going to be a bit of a grind, just grinding through that. You have to know when to step back, when to push. And for me, I know I can push my body quite far when it comes to low intensity stuff and just get over that week of, oh, my residual fatigue is going to be quite high. It's the intensity stuff where I'm being more careful. But yeah, for me, it's just, I won't do that again in terms of, I didn't plan to, it just happened, but I'm going to make a conscious effort not to do that again. Like, even if I can get an hour of spinning my legs or a light run in there, I think that's crucial to not coming back and feeling like, you know, you've been hit by a truck after your first threshold session. But yeah, I know you had a similar situation to me in Italy where there wasn't much training, there was a little bit, but yeah, what has yours sort of had a different effect? Do you feel rested or what?
Well, I'm about to go to the gym, a gym next to that. So I'm in Split in Croatia at the moment. I'm about to walk over to a gym next to the stadium for one of the two biggest football clubs, HYROX Split. There's a gym next to that stadium, so I'm going to go work out there and see if my coach wants me to do a heavy erg workout today for 90 minutes. So I'll see what I can find in there. I did a run yesterday for about an hour. It was about 30 degrees, and I was running uphill, so that was interesting. But I felt fine doing that, but I haven't got a threshold workout yet in the bank, and I've not got a brick overload workout yet since I started trying to train again. So I'm not too sure how that's going to feel. But yeah,
if there were hills yesterday, your coach might take the volume back for today, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, I'll have to have a word with him after the podcast is finished. Then a quick chat. see what he thinks I should do. Maybe I'll text him when I get to the gym. Him, whoever that coach is. I'll text him when I get to the gym because I think he needs to eat right now. So that's been us for today, for this week. So again, I hope you enjoy that, and go follow Ryan Douglas 44 on Instagram. And as Jude pointed out, get jealous about his ridiculous muscle retention and muscle growth while doing your own workouts. I've been Paul Reynolds.
I've been Jude Reynolds.
Thanks very much, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
So Hybrid Fitness Sport Report is sponsored by Wadleat, a UK-based sports clothing company. Founded by an Ironman athlete, designed for functional fitness, hybrid and endurance sports. Ready for training and race day. If you need brand name performance and quality from your clothing without brand name markups in price, you need Wadleat. For free delivery on all UK orders over £50 and to see their latest range, go to wadleat.co.uk. That's WODLETE.co.uk today. Use code HFRPOD20, HFRPOD20 at checkout for 20% off your order.